From the depths of desperation to the heights of financial freedom, we unmask the stories of courageous warriors who battled their money monsters. Join us to deep dive into financial survivor stories.
Hey there, it's Carly and welcome to another episode of Financial Survivor Stories. Today we are joined by an incredible woman called Katy Perry, an amazing Australian fashion designer who has taken on a 14-year-long court trial for trademark infringement with Katy Perry, the singer. I am extremely humbled as today she's sharing her entire journey with us in her fight for justice. Hey Katy, how you doing?
Hello, thank you so much for having me on.
It's amazing. I mean, wow, there is so much to uncover here.
There really is. How much time do we have?
I mean, we've got at least 3 days. I think that's probably what we'd need, right, for 14 years worth of court trials. I really want this to be your opportunity to say your whole story from the start. And perhaps for those that haven't heard this insane journey that you've been on.
Look, that's so true. It has very much been insane and a very long process. And particularly, there is a lot of lies and mistruths that are being spread around me and even around this legal battle. So I'm really excited about being able to share some of the facts and the truths about this case.
This is your opportunity right here. So let's go from the start. How did the brand Katy Perry start and why?
Look, I've always wanted to have my own fashion label since I was 11. So I actually designed my first piece for the school dance. It was like a little off-the-shoulder number with a hot pink ruffle skirt. And all through those years growing up, I knew that I wanted to be a fashion designer and have my own label. I worked in all areas of fashion. So on the shop floor, I actually worked in Browns in South Molton Street in London. I worked for magazines. I worked as a buyer. And during working, I was also studying fashion business because I knew it's all very well to have a great label, but you really have to have the business side around it. And then I was working for a department store here in Australia. And as kind of luck would have it, I actually had a really horrible boss. And she was the reason that I looked back and went, hold on a second, what am I doing? I've kind of got these golden handcuffs. Here's my career with this department store. This isn't what I signed up for. This is not what I wanted to do. I wanted to start my own label. So in 2006, I went for a trip to Italy with my best friend and came back really inspired. I'd seen all these beautiful fashion, these beautiful boutiques, and I was like, this is my chance. Came back, started designing, and then resigned from my job in February 2007 and made the big leap and decided this was the time to do it. And so started my label. I'm all self-funded. I always have been right from the beginning. So was working like 3 different jobs, designing, finding manufacturers. I've always wanted to have it made here in Australia, and it always has been. I've never gone offshore, no matter how many people have told me that it's much cheaper to do so. And so it took me quite a lot of time to find a manufacturer. You know, Australia, or particularly fashion, is notoriously very competitive and quite secretive. And so I went through 3 different manufacturers. And so it took me a bit of time to actually set up the label. And then I started at Paddington Markets with my very small collection. I think I only had like 7 styles. And I was ready to go.
And you've been using the name Katy Perry from day dot.
Yes. So basically, a lot of friends said, I was coming up with different names of brands, and my mum used to have a boutique called Palms, and I was like, maybe I should use Palms. And everyone was like, use your real name, Katy Perry. Lots of fashion designers use their own name. And so I thought, yeah, Katy Perry, it's got a nice ring to it. I actually Googled the domain, katyperry.com, and it was owned by a 7-year-old over in the UK. And so I thought, oh, well, I can't have that domain name, but I can have Katy Perry, so Katie, perry.com.au. So I got that. Nothing else came up. Nothing else. So there was no mention of a singer, and it's hard to imagine, and I think that's what's difficult for people, to go back to 2007. The singer, whose actual real name is Catherine Hudson, so from now on I will be saying Catherine Hudson. Catherine Hudson had no presence, particularly not in Australia. Nobody had heard of her. Very different to now, 2023. And I think people forget that, now she is well known, but back in that time, not she wasn't known, definitely wasn't known to me at all, and not in Australia. And that's why I decided to start the brand with my own name, Katy Perry.
So you started the brand and you did everything correctly. You got your ABN, you set up everything, you did a trademark, did you not?
Exactly. So I actually, when I was going through these court proceedings, found like the little sheet that I had of like ticking things off of like ABN, tick, register my business name, tick, trademark, tick, a checklist that the government actually gives you. And so that was the reason I registered at my ABN, my business name, and the trademark for clothes, class 25, in Katy Perry. And I was doing everything that I was supposed to be do. And when you set up a business, these are the checklists that the government, no less, gives you to do.
Yeah, so you've done everything right from the very, very start. And, you did just mention there that there was a bit of a time where it took you to set up. Any business takes long to set up. Just because you had an idea in 2006, sometimes the ideas don't come into fruition until 4 years later. So the fact that you did everything in the first couple of years, that's actually really quite good. I know there's business out there haven't even got their own trademarks at this point. So that's actually amazing. So what happened after that? So you are just living your life, running your business,
Working
hopefully make.
incredibly hard, working 2 jobs, doing Paddington markets every Saturday, building the brand. And then I was, working from home, and then had expanded the business. So I got a showroom in Mossman. It was a place that I was going to have events and also work from, and had my, opening kind of launch party. And a few days later, went up to the post box and got this really thick envelope and pulled it out and took it back to my showroom. And I'm surrounded by empty champagne glasses, and opened it up. And it was this file saying, cease and desist of your business. Stop your website, stop any advertising material. Otherwise, this is going to be taken to the Supreme Court. And look, those are the words that jumped out at me. This was a very thick envelope of lots of screenshots and files and lots of legal jargon. And as you can imagine, the absolute fear that came through, and I thought I was going to lose my business. I burst into tears and thought, I don't know what to now do. Spoke to a friend, and she said, look, I'll put you in touch with this lawyer. Went to a very fancy lawyer's office in the city, crying. Didn't realize that every minute that you're sitting in a legal office, you're being charged, hundreds of dollars. I had no idea. I'd never dealt with lawyers before, had no idea about that. And he said to me, you've got a really strong case, but unless you've got $20,000 in the bank to fight this, good luck.
What year is this?
So this is in 2009.
Okay.
So,
right.
So what happens normally with trademark, and anybody that's going through trademarks will know this, is that you register your trademark, and then it's put live out to kind of the world, basically, for anybody to oppose it. And so it had been not opposed for 6 months, and then the singer's legal team actually had made a mistake and realized that, oh no, there's this trademark that's going to go through, and we need to oppose this, and we need to oppose it very quickly.
Yeah, so it's just that time period, and they normally give you it's about 12 months, isn't it, where they normally let someone oppose it, and then it gets registered, and then you're sweet after that. So it was just before it got registered, and they managed to get in there. Okay.
Exactly. And so look, now looking back, I realized their application was actually just an extension of time to oppose the trademark. But they didn't send that information to me. What they sent to me was a very threatening and bullying and intimidating letter saying to cease and desist my business, like ASAP.
What should they have sent you at that point?
What they had what their application was for an extension of time to oppose their trademark. It wasn't actually the opposing of the trademark. It wasn't actually for me to just give up my business. It was a very simple application of time to oppose the trademark. So they
Okay.
went very strong, very threatening right from the beginning. And I was new to all of this. I'm 27, I've got my own business, I'm working in the creative fields. Law is not my area of expertise. And, even now, many, many years later, it's still really difficult. I find the legal world very difficult to deal with. So
Had you
I
heard
was
of Katy Perry at this time? Had you heard of her? Had we
I
heard of her?
had. Yeah,
Okay.
so she brought out her song, I Kissed a Girl. And the irony of it is that when I heard her song, I actually went on iTunes and I bought one of her songs in my way to support her. Because her music isn't my style, but I was like, oh, that's amazing. There's another Katy Perry out there. How lovely. I'm going to show my support and I'm going to buy her single on iTunes that I never played again. Just very, very different ways of looking at the world.
Yeah.
So then during that 2009 period, I was really lucky that the media got the story. I got huge amounts of support around Australia. And actually at one point was didn't have a lawyer. I was going to represent myself, which I now look back and think how absolutely crazy. So I would have heard teams of lawyers calling me. I remember one time I hadn't signed something that they wanted me to sign, and they said, look, you don't know what the Americans are like. We're going to let the dogs out on you if you don't sign this now. And I was like, whoa, so aggressive. And my whole thing was always, I want everything to be fair. It's got to be fair. So if you're coming after my trademark, why would I just give that up? I haven't done anything wrong. I've done exactly what the government has asked me to do in an Australian law, have a trademark that's going to protect your business.
But at this point, she's just a singer, right? So she hasn't brought out any fashion at all. So the trademark, as I'm aware, and forgive me if I'm wrong, but there are certain areas of trademark that you have to actually register for. So you registered for the fashion, and Katy Perry, the singer, would have been in the music industry. So how does that correlate?
Exactly. And that was what I didn't realize. For me, I was like, but I'm the fashion designer. I've got the trademark for clothes, and you're a singer. So as far as I was like, well, why are you coming after my trademark? I just thought they were coming after my business, basically. That's how I took it. I was like, you're coming after my business. You just want to shut me down. And that's the end of the story. She, at the time, she had one song out, singer. And it's always been, I'm a fashion designer. You're a singer. I've got the trademark for clothes. I didn't understand. And it's hard because now I understand why. But at that time, putting myself back into, 2009, I couldn't understand that concept because we were in different categories. And you continue being a singer and let me continue being a fashion designer. And that's what I said the whole time. There's a lot of talk about this video that I did on YouTube when I actually did a message to her because I was tired. People were coming up to me and saying, oh, I'm sure the singer doesn't even know that this is happening. And so I said, well, she needs to know. And so I did a personal message to her. And I just said, look, I'm a fashion designer. You're a singer. You continue being a singer and let me continue being a fashion designer. That's what that video was about. That video, which has been swung around by her team, saying that was me acquiescing. That was me saying, no, you can have the trademark. Rubbish. It was absolute rubbish. It was me saying, you're a singer, you continue being a singer, and let me continue being a fashion designer with my brand. I thought I was going to lose my whole business, like blood, sweat, and tears. Like I said, self-funded. I was working 3 jobs. I remember even doing Paddington markets, and my mum was there, like helping me, and people were coming up and talking. And she's like, "You need to go and talk to people. Everyone wants to support you." And I was like, I was like in the corner crying. I was like, I just can't. I have nothing left to give everyone. So, I'm talking to the media, I'm having to deal with lawyers at the same time of getting very aggressive calls from her team, and then thinking I'm going to lose my dream, and I haven't done anything wrong. And that's what kept me going, and that's what has continued to keep me going, is the whole idea that I've done nothing wrong. I did everything that the government has asked me, and I've done everything to protect my business, my fashion label, using my own birth name. It's absolutely ridiculous.
How many times have you been to court? How many times have you attended court?
Well, we went to federal court in so 20, we're in 2023 now. 2022, I had to wait for the verdict. So it was 2021 that I went to court. So just that was
That's huge. That's a huge amount of time. So between that time, there was just emails and telephone calls.
So what happened? So 2009, they then withdrew their application for the extension of time.
Okay.
So I went, oh, wow, that's amazing. I can still continue on my brand. I've still got my label. Fantastic. I can continue building. So I'm continuing doing Paddington markets, continue building the brand. I lived in Perth for a year to build the brand. I traveled all around Australia doing like little trunk shows. I then had a shop in Paddington. So that was the kind of my focus. During this period, as I'm continuing to build the brand, I found out that early on, she had actually applied for a trademark in clothes and it was declined by IP Australia because it was too close to mine. So she's opposed my trademark. She's tried to apply for one herself and it was dismissed. Then during this time, friends would take photos of like pajamas in Target with the brand Katy Perry, t-shirts in concert, brand Katy Perry, and say, is she allowed to do this? Because don't you have the trademark for clothes? Isn't she breaching your trademark? I'll be like, yeah, she is, but I'm a small business. I just don't have the finances to fight this. And then I think it was 2018. I was invited to talk at a Creative Mamas event, and it was a story slam. And they said, oh, like, do you want to just share that fight with with the pop singer Catherine Hudson? And so I came along and just shared that trademark story and said, she's still breaching the trademark, but I can't do anything about it. And as the universe works, there was an audience member there who has her own fashion label, and she knows just how tough the industry is. And the next day she reached out to me and she said, my husband's cousin is a trademark lawyer. I'm going to put you in touch with him. Let me put you in touch. And, I hear people kind of say this, nothing really had happened. And she immediately sent me his details. I called him and he said, look, yeah, I'm a trademark lawyer. I can't do it pro bono for you, but have you heard of litigation fund managers? Have you heard of that, Carly? No. So it's quite new to Australia. And what they do is they look at cases and then they will fund the legal fight. And if there's a settlement at the end, obviously they take a huge percentage of that settlement. And so I said, great, like that sounds right up my alley. This is what I need. I need someone to help me fight this because I don't have the finances. By this stage, I had a 2-year-old little girl. Still building my business. And then 2019, we started proceedings against the singer Catherine Hudson for breach of my trademark. The timing was pretty tough for me. I actually had a 3-month-old baby. So you can imagine, you're pretty like, yeah, I had a 2-year-old, a 3-month-old baby, a small business, and we're starting legal proceedings against the singer. And that's what is so frustrating when people say, oh, but you did this for publicity. You're doing this for money. There is no way, nobody in their right mind would go through litigation with a 3-month-old baby, a 2-year-old, and a small business unless you're doing it for the greater good.
So what were you doing it for? Like, what kept your motivation to continue doing this? Because it's a really good question. I mean, yes, you could say that you were using the name, but I think there's probably better ways or easier ways of being able to use someone else's or get famous yourself. Why were you doing this?
Yeah, I was doing this because my values are truth and justice, and this is wrong. What she's done is wrong. So the fact that she fought me for the trademark, she applied for one and it was dismissed. And during this period, never once did anybody of her team approach me. Never once did they come and say, hey, we know you have the trademark. Could we come up to some kind of agreement? What they did, and they admitted they took a calculated risk that I would not be in a position to ever fight them because I'm a small business and, for my feelings, because I'm a mum, and continue and breached the trademark and breached Australian law. What is the point of having a trademark if some overseas conglomerate can come by at any time and just breach it? That defeats the whole purpose of it. It's there to protect your business and your brand and your reputation that I've spent so many years building up. And that's what's kept me going, is the fact that it's wrong. It's against Australian business and also Australian law. and that we all matter. And it shouldn't matter if you're a big business or a small business. If you're breaking the law, you're breaking Australian law. And I've had people say, oh, but, she's a big celebrity and like, who are you? Like, it doesn't matter. We're all the same, whether or not you're a janitor or you're the president of America. We're all human beings. And I really believe in equality. And what kept me going throughout this time is the fact that we all matter. She broke the law. And it's important to stand up to bullies and when you're intimidated, and also people who are doing the wrong thing. And that's what kept me going, is that now I have two little kids. I want to be a role model for them so that when they see something that is wrong, they are able to stand up to that. And it's hard. And we've had a lot of discussions about that, particularly the past week, because they've seen me cry. And we'll get to the reason why I've been crying this week. And, obviously they're a little bit older now. So my son just turned 4 and my daughter's 6. And so pretty much his whole life, I've been in this legal battle. And I said to them the other morning, like, I know you've seen mummy cry this week, but I want you to know it is important to stand up for what is right. And it is hard. And there is times that I might cry, but we're fighting this battle because it's wrong what's happening. And it's important that if there is a bully, that you stand up and you say, no, that is not cool. And there's a lot of talk at their school. They do things about, kids having friendship fires or mean on purpose. And I said, what's happening at the moment to mummy is someone is being mean on purpose to her. And I have to say, that's not cool. That's not right. And we stand up to it.
How much money has it cost you? Has it cost you anything in money to do this?
Yes. It has not a huge amount of money, purely because I've got litigation funding. But it has cost me quite a lot of money. And where it has cost me is time away from my kids, and particularly time away from my business. So when we went through the federal court, that the amount of information that the stinger wanted from me was huge. Like 1 week, I spent like 30 hours just on the case. So that's 30 hours away from building my brand, away from my business, and 30 hours away from my kids. And I'm a sole trader. I've got contractors, but I don't have an entourage that I can say, oh, look, can you get all that information for me? Can you go? I mean, she didn't come to the court case. She sent her manager. I don't have somebody to say, like, can you go to the court? Can you represent me? Everything has always been on me.
Have you met her?
No.
Have you ever had a conversation with her directly to say, hey, let's sit down and work this out together?
No, she won't have anything to do with me. And during the court proceedings, it was actually read out some of the really vile things that she said about me. I won't repeat them, and I've never repeated them just because they are so horrific. But, people can Google what she said about me. Nobody had pre-warned me, including my lawyers. So I sat in court with like a tear going down my face, hearing some of the horrible things that this singer has said about me personally. It was really upsetting.
How is she talking about you personally if she's never met you?
She had sent emails to her manager about how she perceives me. But exactly, she's never met me. And that's what was hurtful. It's like, you don't even know me. You've had how can you make these comments about me when you don't even know who I am? And that's when it really felt bullying as well.
And you've experienced bullying on social media too, haven't you?
Yes, unfortunately, and it still continues. So
what is that?
Look, I had actually, before this case had even happened, I'd never dealt with trolls before. So I had no idea that you could set up filters. So 2019, there was a lot of media around the story, and I got bombarded with vile messages. I was called a rat, a clown, really horrible things. There was some death threats to me and my kids. And then there was even threats to anybody that stood up against me. Then the trolls would attack them and told them to, go into a mental asylum. And so I actually said to people, just don't engage. Like, I know I've got your support, just don't engage. It's not worth it. They have so much time on their hands. Then had to do some education around setting up filters so certain words can't be approached to my comments. Actually even stopped comments happening on my Instagram and my Facebook. And then thought, okay, I think I'm getting, again, I had a 3-month-old baby, so really sensitive, hormonal, not having any sleep. So I didn't look at the comments. And I actually had a friend and I said, look, can I actually pay you just to go through and delete these comments because I can't have them. I don't want to see them. I'm way too sensitive. I'm just going to take that on board, and humans, we have a negativity bias. So we can see 100 positive messages and it'll be that one negative
Yeah.
that we keep thinking about and reliving. And I'm still going through that. So just recently, and we can go back to the federal court, is that I went through federal court, had a brutal cross examination that none of my lawyers had set me up for. So they
What was
said
that like? What was that
oh,
like?
horrible. So they had told me the barrister is very pedantic, but he's not a bully. And honestly, the moment he stood up, he just laid into me and got aggressive. He never made eye contact. So he would ask a question and then turn his back to me. And a few times I didn't even understand if it was just a comment or a question. And it just awful. And not the way I deal with, I just didn't think that was the way anybody would deal with another human being. You ask a question and normally it's, you look at that person in the eyes. So I didn't know quite where to answer the question to. Do I answer it him at his back or do I look at the judge? And it was over 2 days. And what I also didn't know, when you're being cross-examined, so that started in the kind of the afternoon session. That night I had to come home and I was like shaking. I was so upset with what I'd gone through. I then can't talk about what I've gone through. I can't talk about the case. I can't talk about the cross-examination at all. So I had that whole night, pretty much I felt like I was all by myself, not being able to talk about it to anybody, or even just to be able to say, hey, he's turning his back to me. Who do I answer the question to? Do I answer it to the judge? Do I just answer it out into the open courtroom? I was having to make all these decisions by myself. My mum was actually in the room, and after that first day, she burst into tears, and I feel quite emotional. Um, that was really hard to see her. She just said, the way he treated you, I just wanted to go up to that box and grab you and take you away and say, how dare you talk to my daughter like that? Can you imagine seeing your child be treated so badly and not being able to do anything about it? That part to me was really one of the hardest parts, and I haven't really talked about that. Um, yeah, the brutal cross examination. I had nightmares for weeks after it. I was called a liar, and to me, I'm in the court of law. I take this very seriously. For me, I think like, my goodness, if I lie, aren't I going to end up in jail? I took the matter very seriously, very different to when the manager of the singer was being cross-examined, and during the lunch break he actually went out shopping and came back with a big designer shopping bag.
Okay, this might be a silly question, but just dumb this down for me here, and for anybody who's as stupid as I am listening to this podcast. Okay, so Katy Perry the singer has used your trademark, which was yours, so she's used it without your authority. Why has it gone on for so long? Like, is there not a protection for you or for people that have their trademarks so they don't have to experience going to court?
That's a great question, and I actually don't have the answer to that. As far as I thought, that we would send a letter, hey, you breached our trademark, and they had admitted it. They've admitted that they breached the trademark. I was shocked that it dragged on for all these years. And so, 2019 it started, 2021 I was in court. All of those years it dragged out, lots of small little court cases in between, like little fires. But even when we got to court, I was like, why are we even here? They've admitted that they breached it. And then we had the court, and it was then another year. Actually, it was at 15 months of waiting for the judge to come out with her verdict. So this has been a long, drawn out case. I don't know the answer. I just, to me, I'm shocked that I'm actually even in this position.
But they're calling you a liar. What could you be possibly lying about at this point?
So what they're saying is that one, that I was a PR seeker, that I started the label using her name to get her fame. Like, why would Katy Perry's my real name. Catherine Hudson is her name. Why would I ever do that? And my brand, for anybody who's seen it, it is not associated with the singer. It's, very kind of block colors. It's all about like loungewear. Um, they said that I acquiesced. So when I said that video, like I'm a fashion designer, you're a singer, that was me allowing her to use my trademark. And I said that is absolute rubbish. I never once. And again, if there was any confusion around it, and this is what I don't understand, why did they at never one point over all of these years approach me and say, hey, we actually want to sell t-shirts or pajamas using your trademark. Do you agree to that? Never once. But they've admitted that they took a calculated risk that I wouldn't be able to do anything about it.
If they'd have come to you previously, do you think there would have been an outcome? Would you have been able to negotiate with her, do you think?
Oh God, it's hard to know because it's a hypothesis. Maybe. I mean, the way I've been treated, I'm not too sure that their outcome would have been very favorable towards me, but potentially. But the fact that they didn't, not once, and still nobody has approached me. She's never approached me. It's still, yeah, quite upsetting, and the fact that they keep dragging this out. So the verdict came out just in April of this year.
Let's talk about that because that was exciting. So that's from that. How many years are we talking about now?
So, well, I kind of look back to 2009 because I feel
Okay.
like this whole case has been going on since
Of
then,
course.
and it really
Okay.
has. So, really, since 2009, just in April 2023, I feel like David and Goliath, I've won the case. The verdict's come out. It's a huge verdict. She's taken 15 months to come out with it. And it says that there has been a breach of my trademark when she has sold merchandise during certain pop-up stores. It is quite complicated because there's like three different. So there's Katy Perry, Killer Queen, and then Catherine Hudson. So I didn't win on all 100% accounts. So the
What
judge
did you
had
win
said that.
on?
So I won for Katy Perry, that when that company Katy Perry that is owned by Catherine Hudson, they breached my trademark, but that Catherine Hudson had used it in good faith. The judge did also put an injunction in order and it awarded me additional damages for what I've gone through. So April, I was on cloud nine. I thought, oh my goodness, I've won. This is just a good story for the little guy at last, small business against the big corporation. And I felt like the world had lifted off my shoulders. I can go back to focusing on my small business. I can go back to my kids and not have to worry about this. And there was light at the end of the tunnel. I'm close to that finish line. I felt like by 2024, I could put this all behind me.
What do you think that got the judge to listen to you? What do you think that was said on your behalf that got you the win?
I don't think it was actually even anything that I said. I think it was just the facts of the case,
Okay.
to be honest. Yeah, I don't think it was anything that I necessarily said. I just think, and I mean, there was a very in-depth court case, and obviously lots of information and lots of evidence from my side, particularly, that showed kind of the timeline of everything that went through. And I think that's why her judgment is based not on hearsay. I believe it's based on the actual facts of the case.
Which is really important to note here because you were going before she was really famous, and obviously you'd put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into your business to build everything, even prior to even knowing who she was. And then once you've done that, you've just continued to try and grow your business. And I'm assuming all of that evidence, factually, with your trademark, has suggested, quite rightly, that you own the trademark, and that's why you won.
Exactly. And that throughout all this time, I've continued using it. I've never stopped building my business. I've always been building the business, even when I've, with little kids, because this is my livelihood and it's my dream. And like you said, it was the facts of showing that, the building of the business, the continual use of the trademark. I've never stopped using it. And that was the reason, I won. Well, thought
Yeah.
I had won.
Okay. Yeah. So then what happened?
So then I knew that there was 28 days for the singer to appeal. I have it up on my calendar. It's last day of appeal. I knew that I had until 12 a.m. of that night. You know, all my girlfriends are messaging me, have you heard anything? Have you heard anything? I'm like, no, I haven't heard anything. I was like, I'm not going to truly celebrate until that last day is finished. So that was on the Wednesday. The Thursday, still hadn't heard anything. You know, messaged the lawyers. He's like, haven't heard anything, but, you know, just don't celebrate too early. It's 7 p.m. I'm getting my kids ready for bed. I opened up my email and I just saw that first sentence saying, unfortunately, Catherine Hudson has appealed. And I was just had this shock of emotion. Luckily, my husband was home, and I just said to him, I have to leave the house. I have to go for a walk." And my daughter's running up after me, going, "Mummy, are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." But I just knew I couldn't deal with their emotions too. And I walked out to the street and like burst into tears and just wandered around the neighborhood crying. I must have looked like a crazy person, to be honest, but I didn't care. And just was so overwhelmed with the idea that this is going to now continue. And I think that's why it shocked me so much. And I think I've been holding on so tightly for such a long time. And then I got that win and I was like, yes, and now I can breathe again. I can just focus on the future and my kids. And that was what was so devastating. It's like, oh my God, it felt like we're not, but it felt like we're going all the way back to the start. And that now, this is going to take another 1 to 2 years.
So is the timeline is that?
So yeah, what happens now? So now we have 21 days to figure out whether or not we do a cross appeal. So we're still figuring that out.
So just explain what a cross appeal is.
So great question.
She's just going to get her notes now because I've no idea what I'm doing.
Exactly. So cross appeal, hold on. And that's the thing, like, it's just, I mean, I'm kind of going day by day, but the cross appeal will be our version of appealing her appeal and coming back with our information. That's how I take it. But again, yeah, and that's what's been so frustrating. It's like, oh God, now I'm back into this legal world. This is not the way I'm a creative. I'm used to using that right side of my brain. I hate having to go back into that very left side, very stressful. And I've had people say, but you've got lawyers, you can just let them do everything. And that is not the way you should ever deal with lawyers. Lawyers should do your bidding, basically, but you need to be over everything. And that's, they're doing this in my name. So I make sure, like, I read every invoice, I read every email. If I don't understand everything, then I have to normally do like a follow-up call so that I'm kind of aware of what's going through. I do have to have some trust with my lawyers that they are going to make, the right decision and the right advice, but ultimately they give advice. And then I have to say, yes, I agree to that action.
Yeah, it's not them doing everything for you.
No.
And you have to give them some information as well. They they don't know all the information, do they?
No, completely. And that's what, particularly when we're going through the court hearing and the other side were asking for evidence, that's what took so much time. My blessing is I don't have to go through another cross-examination. And to be honest, I don't think I could go through that again. That nearly broke my spirit and nearly broke my view of the world. And I think I'm the judge called me naive. I'm pretty naive. Rose-colored glasses type of person. I look at the beauty of life and I want to be able to continue believing in truth and justice. And it was interesting, even like the night before the verdict came out, I was saying to my husband, like, this is the last night that I might still believe in justice and in truth. And he was like, you're being slightly dramatic.
I wouldn't call that being naive. I would call that being optimistic, and I think that's a really nice quality. Actually, I would go back to that judge and say, no, thank you. It's a good bloody job you've got optimism, to be honest, after what you've been through. Otherwise, I mean, what has this done to you emotionally? I mean, you are actually only human. I know you're pretending to be a superpower hero over there, but what has this done to you, like, genuinely?
Look, it has taken its toll. I have had to have like therapy around this. And when I was going through the court, pretty much that whole year, like 2021, I got really bad insomnia from the case. My back started playing up. I had really bad sciatica, and it's been quite interesting the past week or so that my sciatica has started playing up again. And I was like, yeah, it's because I'm like super stressed out. Um, so I've been having to. It's definitely taken its toll on me, but not so much that I wouldn't go through it all over again. It's I've had people, even just on the weekend, someone said, "Oh, well, why don't you just give up now? It's taken a toll on you. You've cried. I've been on national TV crying. Just give up." I was like, "That's not who I am, and it's just not in my DNA because I've done nothing wrong, and there's someone who has done something wrong, and still believe that it's important to fight and stand up for what we believe in. And so often it's like, oh, just let it go, love and peace, rainbows and sunshine, and I am pretty spiritual, but I also believe in respect and I believe in standing up for your values. And I think it's really important, particularly in this day and age, that we do that.
You're not just doing this for you, though, are you? You're actually doing it for a lot of other people too.
Exactly. And I think spot on. And that's what has kept me going because I'm doing this for small business, but also doing it for anybody that's gone through a tough time, anybody who's had to stand up to a bully, to know that you can do it. It is hard, but I'm there in your corner too. And the amount of incredible support and messages, particularly just recently that I've received, makes me feel like I have an army behind me, that I'm not just one person. And a few times I've felt really overwhelmed, be like, I'm fighting this for the good cause, I'm fighting this all by myself. And that's not the case. And it was the same in 2009. I remember feeling really overwhelmed by it all. And then thinking, you know what, this isn't just about me. This is so much bigger. This is about Australian law. This is about small business. This is about standing up for a bully. And that's what's kept me going because I have this army of support behind me and really like a whole community. I feel like the whole of Australia is behind me.
Well, you're an Australian fashion designer, born and bred. Do you think that trademark law should be changed?
I think there should be more protection around it. I think there should be more protection for someone when they receive their trademark, that they don't have to go through the battle that I've gone through. Without litigation funding, there's no way I could have done this, and that's not right. It shouldn't matter about the person that has the most amount of money that should be able to fight a trademark case. I have had a lot of people email me who are going through similar battles, and unfortunately, a lot of the times it comes down to who runs out of money first, and that's wrong. And I do think IP Australia should be putting more money or support around people who are fighting trademark cases, particularly against overseas conglomerates.
It's really interesting. Like, how important what I mean, this whole thing is about a trademark infringement. So how important was it that you got your trademark that early?
So incredibly important.
I mean, what advice can you give to people about this? Because people don't understand. Sorry, there's a bloody fly in my way. I'm trying to fight for it. Yeah, what advice would you give to anybody that is, one, has not got their intellectual property sorted on their business, especially for a creative, and two, any advice if this could be, happening to them?
I would say get a trademark. And it is, particularly when you're just starting out. I know for me, it's like $250 per class. And when you're just starting out, particularly if you're a small business, you think like, that's $250 I could put towards product. That's $250 I could put towards, advertising or my website. It is definitely worth it. Take some time to do it. I have done mine by myself. You can get lawyers to do it if you need help. And if you just think, oh, this is a little bit out of my realm, pay someone. There are lots of small business lawyers who will do it for not a huge amount of money. Make sure you get your classes right, but you're protecting your future. And that's what a trademark is all about. So think about where you want to go with the business and don't undermine your business and think, but I'm just small. Like for me, imagine if I just said, oh, but I'm just in Paddington Markets. I don't need a trademark. Whereas my view was always that this was going to be a big brand. I had big plans for where it was going. And that's why I got that trademark at the beginning. So 100% get a trademark, protect yourself, protect your business, and protect your future. And for anybody who is going through a trademark case, like, hang in there for the ride. It is tough. Just keep all the information. Thank goodness, I kept a lot of evidence just because I kept it more of like, this is when I first started my business.
Are you
Keep
talking
it,
about
particularly when,
pictures? Are you talking about
yeah, just
pictures or?
every, like pictures, receipts. Like I've got the first receipt of when I got my first bit of fabric. Like I was doing it more as
Wow.
like a history of the brand, but particularly if you are like starting out, keep all of those documents because down the track they'll come in handy. But if you're going through the battle, it's really hard. I'd love to say like just keep fighting, but if it is costing you too much of a toll or finances, you know, I don't know. You've got to do what's right for you. For me, it's in my DNA to keep on fighting. It's who I am. My mum's a single mum. It's kind of what we come from, and it's worth it for me. I just want everybody to know, no matter what battle you're going through, like I'm in your corner. It is tough, but also stand up for what is right. If you see something that's going on, stand up to it. Stand up to bullies. There's too much messaging out there of just let it go, let it go. Don't. I think it's more important to stand up for what is right and your values. And in a way, I feel quite lucky that I've had the opportunity to look at what my values are and to fight for them. And not many people get that opportunity in their lifetime.
So, what are the options here of both outcomes of the case to your brand and to you? Yeah, let's
Yeah,
discuss this because
let's
this
discuss this.
is the whole emotional piece, isn't it? There are two outcomes still that can happen, and
Exactly.
has been there for 14 years. So, what are both outcomes?
Okay, so let's look at first the negative. Let's get that over
Okay,
and done
let's
with.
get over it. Yeah, let's do that first. Yeah, I agree.
So the negative is that I lose my so they're even in their appeal, they're coming after my trademark. So they did a cross claim against me. So if they win that, I lose my trademark, which basically means I lose my business, I lose my brand, I use all that, from since 2006, that reputation. What I then do. I've decided not to actually even think too far in advance because I think it would upset me too much. But that's what the possibility is, that I lose my trademark and lose my brand and my dreams. The other way that it goes is that the appeal. So when you do an appeal, it's actually in front of 3 judges, and 2 out of 3 judges have to say that my original judge got it wrong. Hopefully, they all stand by her verdict. And then that's the thing, it's not over then. Then from that, we then have another court case, which will about the quantum. So how much is this actually worth? And the additional damages, the injunction will be held up. And so then that's why it's potentially another 1 to 2 years. But
So,
for
have the
me,
damages already been calculated already?
no.
Okay.
So that's what was frustrating, is that we were supposed to have, so the verdict comes out in April. There was going to be another court case in August, just in regards to the costs. So they have to pay my legal costs, and there was going to be another fight of how much of my legal costs they paid. And then there was going to be another case of the quantum of the actual costs around it and how much it's actually worth and the additional damages. So that's why I thought by 2024, this will all be over. And, I've had lots of people say that I'm greedy, that I'm doing this for money. I haven't made any money from this. And even if there is a settlement at the end, I've got funding. So a lot of it is going to be eaten up in legal fees. And that's what's also been frustrating when people call me like greedy. It's like, far out, like, how am I greedy? I haven't received 1 cent from this. It's taken its toll on me emotionally. It's taken its toll on my business. I've actually lost money because it means it's been hours and hours of business away from my business, of building my business up. And there are so many other better ways to do publicity. Like, let's talk about that my brand's made in Australia, that it's sustainable, that we plant trees. Like, I would love to be talking about all of those things. And I think that's the other thing that's been frustrating. And anybody who's gone through litigation knows that that is the last thing that you want to do. Like, it is, it's the kind of the end of the line. You don't go through litigation for publicity.
No.
It's not worth it. It's not, the toll is not worth it. There's just so many better ways of doing it. But you do go through litigation when you're standing up for what's right, and when you're standing up for values and for Australian law.
I think, some of the takeaways I've got is you have to be organized when you've got a business. Even if you think you're a small fish, the big fish can come after you. You have to get your trademark in order early on. Make sure that any effort that you are putting into any other business, make sure that you've got it and it is yours, because then you have something to fight for later on. And don't give up. Like you spent 14 years of doing this. And what's another couple of years now anyway? I mean, you're not going to give up, are you? There's no way.
No way.
There's absolutely no way. I mean, you could be sitting here and crying and being really upset about the situation, and then turn around and be like, well, come on, let's go. Like, you seem that you're that kind of person.
Dust myself off. And I think this time round, I am being more vulnerable, because I it's still quite shocked. I'm shocked that there has been an appeal, that but I also want people to know, like, it does take its toll. And I'm not always superwoman. I think sometimes, and even for my close friends, there's a perception of, like, I've got it all together, because that's also my character. Like, I've got this. And now I actually want to say, like, no, I do need a bit of help, and I need the support. And I want people to remind me, yes, I'm doing this for all of us together, because that's what helps me on this journey. And sometimes when you are taking on a big bully or a big conglomerate, it can be hard, and it's okay to say, hey, this is really tough, and, like, I need a little bit of help around this. And particularly for women, and particularly for moms, I think a lot of times we're looking after everybody else, and then when it comes to us, we're kind of at the bottom of the pile. And I'm learning now to say, I need some help. It doesn't come easy for me, but no, I'm not giving up. Like you said, God, I've gone on this long, and why would I give up now? Like, it's just, I just couldn't. Like, I can't even imagine. I can't even say the words.
Running a business is hard enough, let alone having this in the background. And obviously you've got a family as well that you're trying to keep up there. It must be so difficult for you. And being vulnerable isn't a weakness. Kindness it shouldn't be taken as weakness. I say this a lot to a lot of people, because there's a lot of people that can be still nice and vulnerable and kind, but don't take no for an answer.
Exactly.
I think that's you.
Thank you. Take that straight to my heart. That's exactly what I feel. Like, kindness is one of my core beliefs too, and I think it is important that you can be kind and also have boundaries, and also say, no, I'm not letting that go, and I'm not putting up for that.
Yeah, you've worked too hard. No, I love that you don't give up. It's very close to my heart, that's for sure. I definitely want to share some valuable resources. In regards to the trademark, we need to show that people can actually do it themselves. They don't always have to go and pay for it, because, as you said, that can be an extra cost. So they can do it themselves, which I think is really, really great to know. There is a way of doing it on trademark. I don't know if it was the same as when you were doing it back in the day, because that was a long time ago. But there's actually a little helper on their website that actually guides you through the whole process. So it's actually not that hard to do, but yes, you can go and get somebody to help you if it's a bit overwhelming for you. But also I'd like to understand how you actually got help with the litigation, and if we can link those sort of resources just for anybody that might be either looking to potentially go down this road. It's all about funding, isn't it? So, we want to try and get the little fish to win a bit more. So any resources that we can drop down. So is there anything else that you want to share? I mean, going forward, how is your mindset going forward now, knowing that, you've got a little bit more in front of you? I'm hoping not as long, but a little bit more in front of you. What is next for you? What is next for you, Katy?
Oh, good question. What is next for me? Well, I'm just about to do some more production, so I'm picking that up. We've got new designs coming up. Basically, next to me is just focusing back on the business. I realized that last week, I was really upset by it all, and found that it was taking a lot of time. It was back to taking a lot of time away from my business. and my business is my livelihood. And I thought, you know what, this time around, I'm going to put some stronger boundaries around myself and around my business. And, I'm at Rocks Markets this Saturday. So I'm just back to continuing building the brand and back doing the thing that I love. And there are going to be calls with lawyers and there are going to be emails with lawyers that I need to read. But I am really conscious that this time around, I need to make sure that I'm okay and put boundaries around myself. So I feel like also that's my biggest lesson around this all. I've been very available to my lawyers up to this point. Friday nights I'd be doing disco dance parties with my kids, and then the calls with the lawyers would come. And I've realized, and that would be some information I'd give to, or like suggestions I'd give to anybody else. Lawyers are very good at making it feel like you have to answer right away, and it's so important, it's ASAP, we need it urgent. And it actually isn't. At the end of the day, if you get back to them then the following day, or if you get back to them in a few hours' time, that's okay too. I made that mistake of being just available all the time because I was trying to do what's right, and that's what I thought they needed. And this time round, I'm going to be in charge and put some boundaries around my time and do disco dance parties on Fridays and not answer calls from the lawyers.
That sounds way more fun.
Way more fun.
Way more fun. 100% in sparkly outfits. You say that you're actually more vulnerable this time, but it's funny. I'm actually not seeing that. I'm actually seeing a bit more strength this time. I think, you've actually learnt. And that's what have you learnt from this? What have you, you must have grown as a person. Obviously, anything negative that can happen to us, it can always have some sort of positive effect on the other side. What has that done for you?
Definitely. Look, I think we touched on it before about learning about my boundaries, asking for help.
Right.
I'm quite a spiritual person, and throughout this all, I went even deeper into my spiritual life. So I felt like I had like a spiritual six pack. So that was really strong. I felt like I've grown, and even I touched on this before about really knowing what my values are, that justice and truth and kindness are what I stand up for. Being your own hero, not waiting for somebody else to save you. And I really just really feel strong in my foundations of who I am as a person. Obviously, ideally, I would have preferred to have learnt that another way and maybe not over all this period of time. But as it keeps going, like you said, I do believe that when things happen to you, there is a reason and you will grow as a person. I've definitely grown as a mother, as a wife, as a business owner as well. And like I said, I've got a real good foundation of who I am as a person. And I truly believe, I believe in kindness.
They do say that pain makes you change. It's the one thing that makes you change. We can go along and even though it feels bad at the time, sometimes it's actually for the greater good. I genuinely hope you don't have to go through much more of it though. A fun question to end the podcast. What, if I was to ask you, do you think your superpower is?
Ooh, I like this question.
I know.
I think my superpower is actually kindness. And that no matter what gets hit at me, I still keep believing in the power of kindness and the power of doing good.
And that would be hard work for anybody in your situation. So, Katy, seriously, your resilience and strength is truly remarkable. You are really incredible. You have obviously got this incredible power inside of you that is going to keep you carrying on, unwavering with your determination. We're all rooting for you. I'm actually an Australian citizen. I do have an English accent, but I've been here for quite a long time now. And, I consider myself Australian, and we all love you. Australians have to fight for each other, and you've built a really great brand. I've seen some of your items and they are beautiful. So anybody that does want to go and get some lovely clothes from katyperry.com.au, that is the place to go, obviously.
That's right.
Exactly, right?
Katie.
There we go. And we will actually link that below just so you will get the correct spelling, the best spelling. And we do really hope this inspired our viewers to take control of their own situation, whether it be, financial or business, and to definitely seek help. So if you're facing any sort of abuse, because this is abuse, what you're going through is abuse, right? And you are every day learning something new to try and find your way out of it. But you can get help and you can get support from your loved ones and from some resources that we're going to link below. And make sure to follow us for more inspiring stories like this. Katy, you are amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you so much for sharing my story. I've loved talking with you.
Guys, if you love what you heard today, be sure to go and like and share us on Instagram, Facebook, Financial Survivor Stories, and definitely send to anybody who you think that this might be of value to. If you also do know anybody or yourself wants to become a warrior on this podcast and share their story too to help others, then please message me as we'd love to have you on. It just is so important that we spread the message that no one has to go at this alone. Someone has been through the same situation and is willing to tell their story of how they got out of it. But thank you so much, and we will see you again next time.